Welcome to Master of Science with host Professor James McCanney.
Hello everybody, it is now Saturday, October 4th. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. And we're all waiting with bated breath. I know NASA is certainly going to release all kinds of wonderful pictures of Comet 3I Atlas. Not unbelievable. The deafening, as they say, the silence is deafening. This has happened before, so let me just brief you. For months now, since July, all through August, crescendoing in September, and certainly into the first part of October, all you could see on the internet was 3I Atlas. Is it an alien spacecraft? Good grief. On and on and on. And NASA has all of their instruments, European Space Agency has all possible instruments trained on this. We're going to learn so much science. Oh, there's science. Unbelievable. And then yesterday, the comet did arrive a little late due to the tail drag, as I've told before. But of course, they can't figure that out. The speculation is that there's some alien spacecraft thrusters igniting. People are claiming they saw windows in the nucleus, proving it was an alien spacecraft. Some new brand of silver thruster that came from alien technology. It was all over the board. And of course, NASA stepped in and said, oh no, it's not any of those things. They assured us that it was just an average comet, which it is, but NASA, too little, too late. They let the internet buzz like a buzzsaw for months without saying a word. But the object is that NASA and the James Webb Telescope, the Hubble, every telescope on planet Earth was in position to monitor and take spectroscopy measurements and look at electric fields and magnetic fields and everything else, and it's coming right behind Mars. I talked about this, that originally it was October 2nd. If you looked at the ephemeris of this comet, it would have been October 2nd. It was slowed down by the tail drag, which is the result of my plasma discharge comet model, and it was about a day late. So there was significant drag based on the tail. Okay, and that's due to the higher electrical discharge of this comet, creating a significant drag from the tail. Okay, enough said about the theoretical aspects of this, but not a picture, not a word, not even a meme, not an AI scripted video from NASA, nothing. The silence is beyond deafening. Now I want to give you a little story. This is not the first time this has happened where NASA, there's been a big event, and NASA and the European Space Agency in cahoots completely shuts down the flow of information to the public. Now you would expect at least a photograph of this comet from one of the Mars, because that data is coming back all the time. Because every day you can see the little Mars rover things sending back information. So we know they have the ability to process this and certainly get it to the news media or one of their mouthpiece organizations, news organizations, but nothing, zero, zip, nada, nothing, not a trace, not a word. And there's been a couple new releases, but they just regurgitate the same information they've been regurgitating the last many, many weeks. There's no new information. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. This was, I don't remember the year, but you can look it up. But I remember the date. I believe it was July 5th, or was it July 15th? No, it was July 5th of that year. And the impactor from the NASA spacecraft was supposed to impact on a comet. And so I was set up. In fact, Coast to Coast AM, George Norrie called me up and said, James, they're going to have this event, and NASA has promised to provide us with data and immediate data. That was the promise. the promise. And I knew that NASA was not going to release the data. So here's the scenario. NASA has a spacecraft. It's got an impactor there. And so they send the impactor into the comet while the main spacecraft is videoing this. And what they expected was all this water to come shooting out. Well, what happens is, what we later found out when the data finally was released, is the impactor got close and there was a tremendous explosion. And of course, it discharged the local electric field. And then it hit, and this big outgushing of sand, basically dry material, came out of the comet nucleus, and there was no water. None at all. And the word at NASA was, oh, well, maybe we have to go deeper to find the water that's supposedly coming off the nucleus, but there was nothing coming off the nucleus in terms of water, ice, snow, anything related to H2O. There was no H2O at all. So what they did is they lied. Eventually, when this data came out 6 months later, which was being managed, by the way, by the University of Arizona Astronomy Department, the people that have, I won't even go into that corrupt outfit there. But, okay. So here I am. George Norrie invites me on Coast to Coast AM to receive the data live, the live feed from NASA, and then discuss it on the air. And I'm there, we're on the air, it's July 5th, and all of a sudden, nothing, no data, and no word, nothing. So we ended the show. We said, well, NASA's not keeping their word. They're not releasing the data. And that was it. And then 6 months later, they finally released this. And what they did is they had observed this little particular comet from a distance, and there was an excitement of water in the tail. So they measured that, and they said, that's what came out of the nucleus. Well, they lied. Bald-faced lie, because the water accumulation was due to when the impactor right before it hit, it discharged, caused a larger discharge, and that had an influx of water. The water's coming in towards the nucleus, but NASA lied and claimed that the water that they observed in the tail, they assumed, came from the nucleus, but you could see from the impactor that no water came out of the nucleus. None. Zip. Zero. Nada. So, NASA, once again, never a straight answer. So here we are, October 4th, this Comet 3I Atlas, which is the rage of the news media. It was in every news media segment, every place. And I noticed a number of days ago that your media outlets such as space.com, spaceweather.com, these NASA mouthpieces, yay, rah, rah, everything good at NASA, stopped saying anything about this comet and let the disinformations end runs and run wild on the internet, coming back with, oh, is it a spacecraft, or, on and on, from an alien solar system, whatever. But here we are, October 4th, the comet has certainly passed Mars, and this was a very brief window because the comet was moving very fast. It had a perfect alignment with Mercury, Sun, so it would have been the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and the comet, all in absolute perfect alignment, which would mean that there was significant electrical activity that they would have measured, not only with invisible light but infrared, also radio telemetry and radio electromagnetic readings from various spacecraft. They had probably about 8 satellites, some at Mars, viewing this, and once again, not a shred of data. So how absolutely corrupt can you be? And by the way, this is not due to the government shutdown. Don't let anybody give you that line of BS, because believe me, the lights are on, the equipment is running, and the scientists can, even if they wanted to, do like I do, pay your own way. But believe me, the shutdown of the government has nothing to do with the fact that NASA cannot. These satellites, do you think they're basing their existence on a paycheck? No, they're out there, they're working, and they're not going to shut down. What do you think? The government in Washington shuts down, so the NASA satellites shut down? No, boys and girls, that's not the way it works. So don't let anybody give you this line of BS that's, oh, the government shutdown. No, no. It's all phony baloney, hokey pokey, you know, the NASA hiding data. It's as simple as that because they don't want you to see what really is going on with that comet and Mars. And so my suspicion, just to tell you what I suspect is true, there were severe electrical discharges to Mars and its two moons that were very visible in all branches of the radiomagnetic spectrum. That Mars potentially went comet for a few minutes. In other words, the discharge caused Mars to become a comet, a plasma discharge comet. And that the tail and the structure of the Comet 3I Atlas was greatly enhanced. We saw this when it went by Venus, and that's another case where, remember this clown astronomer from University of Arizona, once again, had his name on this comet. This was about a year and a half ago. And it was going right next to Venus, the comet Venus, the planet Venus, the comet Venus too. And they shut down every feed, and later we found out that one of the SOHO cameras was accidentally trained on Venus out of the picture, out of its normal range of viewing, because they wanted it to view this comet interacting with Venus. We found that footage. It was not released by NASA, but it was an accident, and we found that the comet, in fact, interacted very heavily electromagnetically with Venus, the planet. And Venus exploded, went into a comet mode, exploding meaning that it discharged the solar capacitor. And and so I am sure that there were very significant interactions with Mars. I would suspect that Mars had hurricanes and tornadoes and severe weather based on this. And if it would happen on Mars, gee, guess what, boys and girls, that would happen on Earth. And let me just reiterate another little event here. It was called Tunguska, 1905, I believe, and the earlier part of the year, 1905, when a very large explosion occurred in Siberia, in Russia. And I worked with Russian scientists from the University of Novosibirsk who were boots on the ground. These guys were on the ground at the Tunguska site, and they were looking for residuals from at first they thought it was like this asteroid came in and exploded up in the atmosphere. And when they got there, there was nothing there, because all this material would have, even if it was blown up and pulverized, there would have been a lot of material there. Not a trace, not a drop of anything did they find. And so, or even related, if it were pure water, they would have found something. And there was nothing. And so they concluded that it was an explosion. But now this is an explosion 20 times the power of Hiroshima. And the other reason they knew it was at ground level is because in the middle there's this zone which really nothing is growing. It's kind of like it looks like a crater, but it's just a flat area. It's like a lake. It's like a bog. And what happened, just the observables, the trees right at the edge of that were blown down, and were completely burned. The trunks were not burned, but all the leaves, or needles, and branches were heavily seared right at the edge and blown out in a circular pattern. And so there was this mega explosion, but they couldn't figure out what caused it. So when I was working with them, then they started realizing that fusion is kicked off by electrical discharges. And that's why the solar fusion up in the atmosphere, that's how it works. It's kicked off by fusion reactions. And by the way, that's why the tokamak and all these other fusion reactors don't work. Is because they're trying to create a magnetic bottle, which is not the way of fusion. And so, at any rate, in Tunguska, they realized that here's what happened with my theoretical explanation, was that a comet came by close to Earth and discharged, and what happened is the electrical discharge first of all, dissociated the water in the atmosphere and then in this bog area. And so you had hydrogen, and the electrical discharge caused the hydrogen to fuse. And there, the explosion, 20 times the size of the bomb at Hiroshima. Okay, so, but you won't hear that on the internet because, once again, for NASA, the NASA's excuse for everything is, oh, an asteroid hit it. Okay, so I could go on, but I'm going to cut this short. I was going to do like a 3-minute video here. But the end result, here we are, October 4th, 2025, a day after Comet 3I Atlas, probably the most famous comet in history, maybe next to Hale-Bopp, passed by Mars, and not a shred of information, not a photo, not a word, not a comment, not a video, not a NASA release video, nothing coming out on any of the major NASA rah-rah news media outlets, nothing, zip. The silence is deafening. So with that, I'll leave you, and I'm going to put this out as a free post on my Patreon channel and on the YouTube channel. But if you want to support more information like this, go to my Patreon channel, patreon.com/JMCCSCI, the same as the webpage short URL, JMCCSCI on my Patreon channel. Go there and sign up to become a member so you see more of this type of information. And if I get any information at all, if I see anything come across the feed here, I will jump on here and make some more commentary. But as of right now, it looks like it's going to be a dry weekend in terms of news on 3I Atlas and the Swan Comet. Not a shred of information, nothing coming out of NASA or European Space Agency. Criminal behavior. Okay, this is the public YouTube presentation of this information. I'm going to have extended information on my Patreon channel on this topic and more, other daily postings there. I encourage you to go there, and I'll have quite a bit more information on this topic, and that is patreon.com/JMCCSCI. So go to the Patreon channel for more information on this topic.